You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome into this week's edition of 21 Questions, presented by our good friends at Macadoodles. I am Tucker Franklin, joined by a very special guest today. Very happy to be joined by Charles Goldman. You know him on Twitter at Charles, not at Charles. If you type Charles Goldman, you'll find him. You can add Charles. A little behind the curtain here. We spent like 5 minutes before this talking about Charles' Twitter handle, and I immediately messed it up. So that is a great start to the podcast at GoldMCTNFL. I wrote it down, and I still messed it up. Charles, how are you doing today? Not off to a strong start.
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I love getting the opportunity to do these. These are always fun.
Doing the old podcast circuit too. I've seen doing a few podcasts. And we were talking before this podcast started. Not a lot of content going on for the Kansas City Chiefs. Kind of a dry spell here before we hit the NFL draft, which obviously a big time for us here at KC Sports Network. Got a lot of plans in the works. So very excited to talk about those things. But Charles, how it's been a minute since you've been on 21 Questions. We got a lot of questions. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's bring them on. Let's see what. I bet we got some tough ones. We got some tough ones.
Yeah, we do. We're going to have some tough ones. We're going to start. We got some serious football questions, which I'm sure is why everyone tuned in. And we've got some not so serious questions, which is why I am on the podcast to answer those questions. But let's start with Cheddar Bob, BAWB on the Discord. Hey, and if you want to ask questions for these are all coming from the KCSN Discord. You can become a subscriber, a premium subscriber to the KCSN Substack, where you're going to get a article from Charles. You're going to get some premium film content, some analytics stuff from in our Substack right to your email every morning. You can go find that link in the description or go to kcsn.substack.com. No matter how hard Elon Musk is trying to suppress Substack, we will prevail, Charles. So first question, this is from Cheddar Bob. If the league were to do another expansion and the rules are just like the 2002 expansion, leave 5 players from the current roster unprotected, can't be kicker or punter, can't be entering free agency, only one player with more than 10 years experience and only one player that was placed on IR can be on each team's list of unprotected. Who are you leaving unprotected for the Kansas City Chiefs, and who would you pluck from the other? And who would you pluck from the Super Bowl champs?
Who would I leave unprotected? He didn't mention long snappers, so James Winchester, you're unprotected. Here we go.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Who would I grab from the Super Bowl champions if they were left unprotected? It'd probably have to be like somebody on one of the lines. I think he built through the trenches, so maybe like a Mike Dana or something like that. I feel like that would be a good grab if I was a team starting the expansion draft.
The expansion draft rules are very interesting. We've had expansion drafts in several other sports since the NFL had an expansion draft. Right, 2002 was the last time, according to Cheddar Bob. When this last one was done, I think they just had one in the MLS, and they've done a lot of different expansion rules with unprotected players and that. But it seems like every expansion draft is just like you protect the guys you want to protect, and then it's like who's left leaves unprotected. Like it's one of those situations of like, okay, we need to protect Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. And then whoever's left after that is kind of who gets left. This is the vibe that I get from these expansion drafts.
I remember there was a couple of years back, there was the NHL expansion draft. I remember I did an article about who I would protect and whatnot, kind of comparing it, the different rules, but I can't remember for the life of me, who I left unprotected. I'm sure it was, a couple guys who were just, hadn't quite yet hit their stride. Maybe like a Mecole Hardman or something like that. But yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with something like that, obviously you got to protect the top-notch players. But I mean, I think usually there's some decisions that might be made financially too. Think about the NFL finances are right at the top. So maybe there's a guy that we say protect Chris Jones, well, if they're not going to extend him, maybe they don't protect him, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, that's just one thing that could happen. But, I mean, hypotheticals.
Very much so. I would love to see another NFL expansion. I'd love to get some more teams in the league, maybe some other cities that are deserving of an NFL franchise. And obviously, the more teams, the more talent dispersion there is. NFL's at a good spot parity-wise anyway, so I don't know if they necessarily need to do that for sake of parity. Now, we know the NFL loves money, and that would give them more money, and they've proven that they love money. Here's the next question here. Charles, this is from Brad C. In honor of the KCSN draft guide being released this week, what is your favorite mock draft machine to use?
I use all of them.
Yeah.
So when I do my mock drafts, I create like a composite. So I'll go through it. I won't actually pick. I'll just let the mock draft machine run. And usually I'll keep them at, whatever their like base settings are. I'll let it run, and then I'll make like a tally of what players are available in a certain range, right? And then if a player is available a certain amount of times, so say like players are available more than 5 times at pick 31, I'm going to consider them an option for me when I go through for a mock draft. So, I like to use all of them. I know there's some different ones that are different experiences because there's some that you have to pay to use.
Right.
I know. I think PFF just went to like a premium type of style where I think you have to like subscribe to do more than 4 rounds or something like that. You have to be a PFF subscriber. But I think like I probably most recently enjoyed the NFL mock draft database simulator. I think it's like the cleanest experience. There's not a lot of ads. I don't get it crashing a lot. It's easy to like, use on mobile or on PC. So
for sure,
that's where I'm at with that one.
When Jordan Foote and I back in the day, we used to do our mock drafts for the old Roughing the Kicker podcast. That's what we used, was the mock draft database. We talked to the guy who kind of runs it there and kind of got a little bit behind the scenes of his idea. And the concept of the website, I think, is a good idea too, because it's something that I always like to do. Or I would always do leading up to the draft, right? Is I would look at all these mock drafts and I'd put them down. It's like, okay, where is basically kind of what you're saying of like a composite of like where experts have the Chiefs going, like where they have them picking. He does that already on the website. You can go there and it's got all the mocks listed. It's got the favorite players of that the experts have had. That's a really cool site to go to and just kind of poke around. I like using that one. I didn't know the PFF went premium yet because I haven't used it this year. And I think the Draft Network has one too that I've seen people use and people like. But the one that I mainly use is that mock draft database, and is more than just football. I think over there now too. I think they do hockey mock drafts, they do basketball, and so if you are interested in any kind of drafting, you can go over to the mock draft database and do that. Very cool. And if you don't have the KCSN draft guide yet, it's not too late. Still plenty of time before the draft. The draft guide did release on Wednesday. You can now get that for $12.99 in the link in the description. Go to that and go grab the draft guide. Great piece of content. I
believe it comes with does it come with 3 months of the Substack as well? I think it does. So I mean that's a killer deal.
It's a bargain because listen, as people know, I'm not good at math, but I can do the math pretty easily. 3 months of that Substack is, if you're paying monthly, that's $15 right there.
Yeah.
And not only are you getting it for $12.99, but you're also getting the draft guide, which is 303 pages of premium draft content on top of that. So you can be prepared for literally all 3 days of the draft. You will be prepared. You will know these names that the Chiefs will be selecting. So make sure to go check that out. Really good. I've gotten to read through it in the articles that Maddie, Craig, and Ken have put all in there. That's some very good stuff. Very good stuff. All right, here is a question from Squintino. How many round 1 prospects would you be excited for if the Chiefs got them at 31, Charles?
That's a good question. Quite a few.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I probably have about like anywhere from 18 to 21 players who I consider like true round 1 grades. But But I like this draft class. I think that we're definitely going to see quite a few good players in that first round and beyond it. And I don't know. I think there are going to be some options available at 31 that maybe we're not expecting right now. Because there's always some strange things that happen. I mean, we're hearing kind of the hype right now about Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker going in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So that's potentially 5 quarterbacks in the first round. That's good news for Kansas City. Yes. And then, if you get some interior offensive linemen going in the first round, you get a couple tight ends going in the first round, all of a sudden it's going to push down some of those edge rushers, some of those offensive tackles. It's going to open up some possibilities for Kansas City that, maybe we're not really considering right now.
That's a really good point, and I think they talked about it even on the KC Laboratory on Thursday. There are some options, too, that I think even a tackle. I don't tackle, they're probably not trading up for a tackle right now, but there could be some opportunities, Charles, as you mentioned, if there is a run on quarterbacks, if there's a run on tight ends. Maybe, the safety class isn't all that good, but I mean, if they do a run on everything else and Brian Branch is the guy that the Chiefs are left with, I'm going to be okay with that. Yeah. There's a lot of guys that I think that the Chiefs can kind of let the board play out. And if they don't like it, trade back or trade out, trade up. If they really have a guy, that's what I want to see the Chiefs do. If they have their guys trade up, I think that would be fun. I don't really anticipate 10 picks is a lot of picks, especially after making that many a year ago and having all of them make the roster essentially. So that's really tough for them to fit 10 more rookies on this roster. But I mean, there's offensive linemen there that, talking about Anton Harrison. That's a guy that if he falls to the Chiefs at 31 and they take him at 31, I'm pretty stoked about that. There's a lot of guys right there, like Darnell Wright, I think is another one. There's some wide receivers too. Quentin Johnson, if he gets to 31, I know some people are a little weary about his catch or drop percentage, and rightfully so. But I think he's shown that he could be a big body wide receiver, a little bit opposite of what the Chiefs have right now. So there's a lot of guys there that I'm just kind of interested to see how that board falls. And if the board falls in the way that is good for the Chiefs, I think you'll see them stand pat and just kind of take best player available. And that was a point that I believe it was either Kent or Maddie. I think it was Maddie that brought it up, that the Chiefs, their top 30 visits are all over the place, right? They're not one specific position. They might be trying to blow some smoke, but I mean, it really just seems that they're trying to go best player available at 31.
Yeah, and if someone falls a little bit, into that like top 20, top of pick 20 to like mid 20s range, I think they could probably consider moving up. I saw a mock draft yesterday from my colleague Jeff Risden at DraftWire, and he had Broderick Jones, Georgia offensive tackle, falling to number 26, and the Chiefs traded up to get Broderick Jones. I don't know if that's a strong likelihood, but it's interesting because, a lot of people consider a guy like Broderick Jones, like maybe top tackle off the board. Maybe he's, second tackle off the board, but isn't. What if that's Darnell Wright or, Paris Johnson Jr. or one of these other guys, kind of pops in there and starts to push him down, and maybe teams haven't done their homework on him. And all of a sudden you got a guy that you really like who's available around then. I mean, it's kind of like what happened with Trent McDuffie, right? We were like, we didn't think he was going to be available. He was there. They knew where they had to go up to get him, right? They knew what teams were kind of interested in him. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. There's so many different things that can happen, which is why I love this part of the year, because we get to explore all of those, right? All the different possibilities. And then, we got to get to see it unfold, and it never goes as anyone expects it.
The Raiders will probably draft a guy who's projected in the 4th round, in the 1st round.
Right. Someone told me that maybe they're interviewing this kid from Florida. They got the quarterback. They got Jimmy G in there. Maybe they're trying to get the kid from Florida to play tight end or something. Right?
They're gonna do something. You always know. You can always bank on it with the Raiders are gonna do something that'll make you scratch your head. That was a different regime, but who cares? It doesn't fit our narrative here. Here's another draft question here for you, Charles. I think this one's really interesting. This is from Nike Patriots DEO Denny. Would you be more surprised if our first round pick was a safety or a tight end?
I think I'd be more surprised if it were a safety. And the only reason is that, like, I look at the room right now and, you know, you got Justin Reed in there. You've got Brian Cook, who was a second-round pick last year. You've got Mike Edwards, who's ball hawk free agent signing. And then you bring back Deon Bush, who's kind of like your special teams guy and whatnot, and played backup last year. Yeah, obviously, you're going to make some additions there for camp and whatnot, but like that room feels kind of set. So if you're bringing a guy in, you're potentially pushing one of those guys out. Probably not going to push out Edwards because of his contract. So pushing out Bush, who's a guy that we know Tobe likes. He played the second most special team snaps on the team last year.
Right.
So that would be a tough one for me. And, you know, it's been a while since they've carried more than 4 safeties on the roster. That seems like the sweet spot. So, like, if you are drafting a safety, he's got to be someone who can do a lot. So it's got to be someone who can also probably at least play slot, play both the safety spots. I mean, you know, maybe they're looking at the guy out of A&M, Antonio Johnson. He can play everywhere. I think he could probably play corner too, like outside. He's got the length and size. You know, great tackler, which Spags loves in his cornerbacks. I mean, that's a guy that you could really play anywhere in the defensive secondary. But I mean, we also know that, like, the secondary is probably the biggest strength of this defense right now.
Yeah.
Going into this next year. So I feel like tight end, I'd be more surprised by safety. I think tight end would make a little bit more sense, even with, you know, how the tight end room is. But, you know, we know that the Chiefs have learned to use 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. They even have learned to use 4 tight ends in certain formations. So I think there's probably more room to add a tight end and potentially push, you know, one of those guys that they brought back out. Maybe it's Blake Bell, or, you know, maybe they look to trade somebody. Maybe, you know, they see, hey, you know, Fortson, look, we've worked to develop you, and maybe he's the guy who gets traded. Maybe it's Noah Gray. Who knows? Yeah. So I think, you know, you grab a tight end at 31, and you don't look back in that type of situation.
There's a lot of good tight ends in this draft too. You talk about Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame, Darnell Washington out of Georgia, the kid from Utah, Dalton
Kincaid.
There we go. I almost said Schultz, and I was like, that's a kid I went to high school with. That's not his name. But there's a lot of guys too, and we talked about it earlier. A run on tight ends helps the Chiefs kind of make their decision. If they do maybe want to trade up and get a tight end, I know there's some people who are kind of against that, but that's nothing against Travis Kelce, right? If they're going to take a tight end in the first round, that's not an indictment on Travis Kelce. I think sometimes people think that, but
if anything, it's a move to help extend his career, right? Take out some of the workload, you know, use him, you know, in the key situations, and, you know, maybe have another guy who can kind of replicate his skill set for different situations.
100%. And so I don't think I'd be surprised by tight end at all. Honestly, I think if they went tight end, I'd say, okay, that reasoning is solid, makes sense. Safety is a little bit more of as you mentioned, that room is kind of crowded. You don't want too many cooks in the kitchen there. Brian Branch is a guy that, you know, is probably the top of the safety in this class, but the safety class isn't as deep. I shouldn't say a high-end safety class isn't as deep as it has been in years past. You know, there's going to be a video breakdown of Sean Barber and Kent Swanson breaking down Brian Branch, and he's a guy who is pretty versatile. He's a guy who can make some plays on a ball, so he'd be a guy that I'd like to see in a Spagnuolo defense. Like, I think when watching his highlights, it's just like, okay, this guy looks like a Kansas City Chief. Like, he looks like a guy that would be in the Chiefs defense. I wouldn't be upset with Brian Branch. I wouldn't be upset with the kid from A&M either. There's a couple guys there that I could justify be okay with, but I do think that safety would be a little bit more of a surprise. In terms of the question, I think I'd be a little bit more surprised if they would safety the time.
To play, you know, devil's advocate a little bit here, and maybe it's not such a surprise, right? We've got we've got the fellow Reed, who is coming up on year 3 of his deal will be next year.
Yeah.
You have an out here in that contract. You can get out of his deal if it's not working out, if you don't think he's the player that you thought he was. So maybe, you know, they're thinking towards the future. They're like, hey, we're going to need some money in 2024. We can get rid of Reed. We can draft a young safety, and we can have our future set up so that maybe we can pay L'Jarius Sneed or, someone else who's coming up in free agency. Eventually maybe that's what leads to the re-signing of Chris Jones. You never know.
Yeah, lots of different possibilities. Chiefs have set themselves up good to not be in a spot where they need to take a position in the first round, which is always a good goal to have. And you know what is a good goal to have, Charles, is taking a break right now. So we're going to take a break, and then we will be right back after this.
Whether you're a Chiefs, Royals, Sporting KC, KC Current, K-State, KU, or Mizzou fan, we've got you covered. Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, proudly presented by MyGuys Bank.
We'll go back into 21 questions. I'm here hanging out with my guy, Charles Goldman. We're answering your questions from the KCSN Discord. You can get access to that by being a premium subscriber to the KCSN Substack. This podcast is, of course, brought to you by Mac Noodles, our wonderful friends down in Lee Summit. You can go catch out their location there if you're in the Kansas City area, or down south. They're southern Missouri, Arkansas area. They're down everywhere there, so make sure to go check them out. A phenomenal liquor store experience. Charles, you're going to be in Kansas City for the draft. I got to ask you, where are you going to be eating?
We're everywhere.
Right.
No, I mean, whenever I come to Kansas City, I always have to hit a bunch of different barbecue spots.
Yeah.
I always start with Gates, because that's just my classic go-to. Love their sauce. We'll just see kind of where things take us. I don't know. I've heard good things about Chef J Barbecue. I know the Chiefs Wire guys, I think there's a Thai barbecue fusion restaurant called Buk Tui, I think is what it's called. And I've heard good things. And I spent some time in Thailand when I was when I was in college rather. And I love Thai food, so that kind of that piqued my interest, and I gotta try it. So
that sounds really good. Jordan and Ken just had a Chef J Barbecue the other day. Chef J Barbecue out at the out at the K. So I had it when I was out at Kaufman watching the Royals put up 0 runs.
Yeah.
I drank more beers than they had runs. Had more beer bats than the Royals had runs.
I'm sure you'd rather see them score some runs, but those beer bats look kind of tasty.
They were pretty slick. I'm not gonna lie. $28 for it's kind of a steep price, but I justified it as it's probably 2 beers. That's probably how much you'd spend for 2 beers anyway, and you get a really cool cup to go with it.
Yeah, it's nice little something you can bring back and put back in our little shrines that we have. You got yours back there too. You can throw them back there.
Just put it up there. Need to get a bat stand, put it on top of the bookshelf. That's a really bad audio gag, though. If you're not watching this on the YouTube video, you should be. But go be right up there. I took it to our KCSN office. Is where I have it right now. Okay. So it'll show up in the background of the video, I'm sure. Regardless, but we got another question from Nike Patriots DEO Denny. Which of the 4 majors in golf would you most want to play in? If you pick a rotating one, you can choose your course. Charles, are you a big golf fan?
Not as much as I should be. I feel bad because my grandfather was a big golf fan, big golfer, and I never really got into it too much.
Yeah. So I golfed a little bit in high school. I dabble in the trade. I really like the U.S. Open. Obviously, the Masters is, I think, the layup answer there, but I'll exclude the Masters there because it's really interesting that both golf and NASCAR have their Super Bowls at the beginning of the season. I think that's an interesting kind of quirk in their schedule. But the Masters is obviously a good one. But I like the U.S. Open, and I'd play it at the one in Pennsylvania, the course there that I'm gonna have to look up because I can't remember. You know what's even worse about this, Charles?
What?
Is I've been there. I've been to I went to the U.S. Open when it was in this golf course.
Well, it clearly left an impact on you, just not a strong enough one for you to remember.
Right. It was Oakmont Country Club is what it was. Yeah, Oakmont Country Club in 2016. I was at that one. That was the one that Dustin Johnson hit just an absolutely beautiful striped ball on the 18th fairway. right next to the pin. I was standing on that 18th green there on the final day at Oakmont Country Club. It's a very cool experience. To be at a golf tournament is very interesting. But yes, the U.S. Open is what I would choose at Oakmont. That course, the church pew bunkers, everything about it is very very pristine.
Nice.
All right, yeah. Let's go with here we go. This is from Craig. Make sure to follow him on Twitter. Actually, by the way, at Craig_KCSN. He's back on Twitter. Different Twitter account at Craig_KCSN. Craig is great. He said, "Will Tucker accumulate enough beer bats for us all to drink out of our own during the draft?" It's possible. I can do my darndest. If anyone wants to support my beer bat fund, they can DM me on Twitter. I don't know if I can afford that many beer bats. We're all going to drink out.
At $28 a pop, that could get kind of pricey.
It gets a little expensive, or I just get in a connection where they just give me the bats.
Yeah.
But no,
can't be selling that many of them.
When I was at the game, they said there was 10,000 people there. There's no shot there was 10,000 people. I looked up it.
I forget they included like all the the people like working there.
Yeah.
And like the press up in the press box.
They counted literally physical human beings in the building. Yeah, I looked it up after I went. It was like a cold April night game, so it was kind of chilly. So when I pulled up to the stadium, I actually thought, "Oh no, did the game get canceled? Like, did it get moved?" Because there was like no one there, and I was like looking on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh no, there's just nobody here." There was like 20 minutes before first pitch, so it's disappointing. But yeah, 10,000 people. It's more like 4,000 by the time that everything was said and done. But all right, this was from Matthew McDad. Who is a player at a non-position of need that you couldn't pass up if you were the Chiefs at 31, Charles?
Non-position of need?
Yeah.
Dang. I don't know.
I don't know if there's a such thing, to be honest with you.
Right. Really, the only non-position of need I could think of is like quarterback, right? So who's the quarterback I couldn't pass up
at 31?
At 31, Anthony Richardson. That'd be fun to like develop him behind Mahomes and then like just trade him for a boatload of draft picks. That'd be cool. But hey, yeah, I don't know. That's not gonna happen. Who couldn't I? Okay, I'll say non-position of need. We don't need a running back. I don't think I could pass up Bijan Robinson, right? If he's at 31, like this is a guy that everybody's talking about, like generational type of talent at the running back position, pair generational talent at running back with generational talent at quarterback, both Texas guys, like that's appealing. There's an appeal there. I know that, after the Clyde situation, running back with that first round pick is not like super appealing to the fan base, and there's probably better ways you could spend that pick, or that's probably the predominant thought. But I don't think I could pass up that one.
It's a good one. The Bijan's a good one. Non-position of need. I'm starting to think maybe like there's not a high interior guy, right? I think that maybe people have talked a lot about Skronsky. If you want to move him maybe to guard, which I don't think he will be, like that could be something that you could talk about if Skronsky was there. I think that Bijan's probably the best one there. I think that would be the guy. And man, Chiefs fans would hate that. You know the Chiefs fans would not be stoked about that. But if Bijan gets to 31, you're looking around the room, you're thinking like, wait, do we actually, like, is this real? Like,
I mean, they'd hate it because there's so much love for Pacheco right now. But man, I mean, those two, giving Mahomes that arsenal in the backfield, to kind of take some of the pressure off, that'd be a smart move for long-term, long-run type of situation there.
Absolutely. This next question is from Kent Swanson. Kent Swanson asks us, which known top 30 invite do you want to be a Chief the most? I already know, off the top of my head, Quentin Johnson. I want to see that guy in a Chiefs uniform. I like him. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I was a very big fan of the TCU offense, TCU this year. But it seemed like every time TCU needed a big play, that guy was there. And I know that sometimes he does maybe body catch a little bit, doesn't catch it out in front of him. Some things that I think can be developed, but
he disappeared a little bit though, right? In the national title game. So
yeah,
that's
that whole offense disappeared though in the national title game. So there was a bit of some concern with that, as you're saying, Charles. But I do think that that's a guy that I think there's a lot of things that you can't coach with him already, and I think there are some things that he can develop and get better with.
Yeah. I'm going to go with like a late round guy, and I'm going to just let my bias completely show here. I'm a New Mexico Lobos fan. I lived in Albuquerque for many years. So seeing Jarek Reed, the safety, also I believe he's a special team or return specialist, has done some of that stuff before too. Getting a guy like that, I think would be a lot of fun. I mean, I think Glover Quinn was like the last like big draft pick that the New Mexico Lobos had in the secondary. And he was like a 10-year, 11-year pro. And I think this guy's maybe a little more athletic than Quinn was. And I think he can do a lot of the same things. And, maybe that's a guy that you pick up, and maybe he spends the first year of his career on the practice squad and then ends up, making a big impact. Maybe it's a late round draft pick. Maybe he's an undrafted free agent. But for me, that'd be a lot of fun.
Charles, I found a very good coffee spot in Albuquerque.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that you were an Albuquerque guy.
Yeah.
Satellite Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful joint.
There's another restaurant, I think, that, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's like an offshoot of another restaurant in Albuquerque that's really popular. Found.
Yeah, when BJ Kissel and I went out to Las Vegas, we take the southern route. We go through Albuquerque. The first time we stopped at the Breaking Bad house out there. Lady or man or whoever lives there does not want you to see it. Like, they do not want you anywhere.
Are you talking about the one where they threw the pizza on the roof?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, they have like a big fence up around that now. They actually, in Old Town in Albuquerque, New Mexico, they do a tour, like a Breaking Bad tour, where they have like the van or whatever, the camper that they're in when they're crafting meth in the first season, right? And they take them through. There's the house that was, I think, like Jesse's parents' house. It's actually right around the corner from where my parents live.
Oh, wow.
And whenever I'm in town, I'm like, I'll help my parents. I'll walk their dogs. And I'm always walking the dogs, and the bus will come by, and all the people who are in it, they'll wave, and I'm like, yeah, Breaking Bad.
Great show. No, but Satellite Coffee, we did go there to do a podcast. Wi-Fi, very good Wi-Fi there.
There you go.
So Satellite Coffee is always going to have a special place in my heart. Charles, we got some more questions. We got some more football questions coming up. We've got we got a little baseball, football infusion question coming up that we're going to get to right after this break.
Whether you're a Chiefs, Royals, Sporting KC, KC Current, K-State, KU, or Mizzou fan, we've got you covered. Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right, welcome back into 21 Questions presented by McNoodles. Hanging out here with Charles Goldman. I'm Tucker Franklin. This one is from Ross Sawyer, the Browns GM. You're going to hear some of that. They've got the members mock draft going on. If you don't know already, in the Discord, they've changed all their names to be the proper GMs. Ross asked us, in their prime, would you rather see George Brett play safety for the Chiefs or Chris Jones play first base for the Royals?
Ooh. I want to say, yeah, I feel like it'd be really fun. I feel like Chris Jones would be a really fun baseball player. Like, with his personality and everything, I think he'd be a guy that'd just be great guy to have on a baseball team. Yeah, I got to go with Jones at first base, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that George Brett has the attitude to play safety in a Spagnuolo defense. Yeah. Especially in his prime. You saw him fly out of that dugout and go after that umpire. I think that would be fun. But Chris Jones, that's a big body right there at first base. I think that's a hard one to turn away.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna make some plays at first base. No.
Oh yeah, he can scoop. He got the good hands. He can scoop them. You've seen the videos of him, so I have no doubt that Chris Jones could be a serviceable first baseman defensively. Offensively might be another issue. But
I don't know how he does it at the plate. We might have to ask him that.
yes,
Pose that question to him.
Chris, do you think that you could hit a curveball? See what he says. I'm sure he'd be very confident in his skills.
I think so too.
All right, this one is from KCLVIII Niners. My football question: who drops far enough for the Chiefs to go up and get them? And I've kind of heard this question thrown out a little ways. One guy specifically, a guy who is falling a lot, Jalen Carter. Obviously, not because of on the field things. He's not falling because of on the field talent. It's all off the field. What are your thoughts? Who do you think it is, that guy that falls that makes the Chiefs want to go up for him?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Carter fell out of the top 10. I think just too much talent. Teams are doing their research in that like top 10 area on him. I think that he'll still be a top 10 guy. I don't know. I've heard this such a polarizing class of wide receivers, right? I think everyone's saying JSN is like the top guy. I think that's probably like written in stone right now. But like after that, it's kind of a little wishy-washy. I mean, we're seeing some recent hype for Zay Flowers. He's invited to the draft. That's usually a good indication that, hey, this guy's going to go and like at least like the top 40 picks. Maybe he doesn't go round one, but he's like top 40. He's for sure going, right? It's pretty rare that they invite a guy who they don't expect to go in those top picks. I think he could go. I think he could be the second receiver off the board after JSN. And then you're talking, okay, where's QJ? Is he gonna like fall? If he can, does he fall to like 15? Fall like 19?
Right.
You know, I did a recent mock draft with our network of editors at USA Today, and QJ fell to 19. I'm like, I feel like the Chiefs could probably move up in range to get him if that's the case. So. Yeah. I think that's someone you got to kind of look at. And, again, if quarterbacks start going, if some of these interior offensive linemen, maybe some tight ends start going in the middle of the first round there, then you're seeing some of these edge rushers, some of these offensive tackles maybe dropping into a range where you could trade up and get them.
Absolutely. I do think there's just the unpredictability. So, okay, I think CJ Stroud's going one. I think we all kind of think that. We all kind of know that. But, like, kind of outside of that, that's where it gets fun. I mean, there's Bryce Young going to 2, right? I mean, you're going to have those quarterbacks. You're going to have that run on quarterbacks. But when those quarterbacks go, there's going to be teams do some stuff that you don't see happen. So there are going to be guys fall. It happens in every draft. Whether the Chiefs like them or want to move up for them, that's going to be the interesting thing. That's going to be able to see. But I think that Jalen Carter is the most interesting one, I think, with just the way he's falling. I agree with you. I don't think he's going to get like to 15. Like, I don't think he'll get out of 10. But if he does get to 15, if you're the Chiefs, you got to be thinking, what can we do? What can we put together? You've got 10 picks. You're probably not going to make all 10 of those picks. What can we do to get up there and get a guy at defensive tackle? Because imagine Jalen Carter next to Chris Jones. Like,
right. And this isn't a guy that like they haven't done research on, right? They had our defensive line coach out at the Georgia Pro Day, worked him and Nolan Smith out. So like they've done a little bit of homework there. Probably not as much as other teams. They're not bringing him in on the like top 30 visit. It doesn't appear. They're not. They might have had an interview with him at the combine. I can't really recall off the top, but. They're at least preparing for like that slight possibility that, hey, something happens.
Sure, that's what you want. This question's from Craig. Again, another Craig question. Who is a day 3 guy you'll pound the table for? He wants both a Charles my guy and a Tucker my guy.
Day 3 guy I would pound the table for. Give me the wide receiver out of Princeton, Andre Iosivas. Track athlete. Like big guy, he's like 6'3", 210. Like he's definitely got some size to him. I think if things go wrong, early on for the Chiefs at the wide receiver position, my thoughts are like if you can't get one of the top guys, make sure you're getting guys with like high ceilings that can maybe one day become a top guy. Like this guy clearly has the athleticism, right? He's clearly the athlete to be able to do it. but maybe needs some refinement, needs some work with the coaching staff and the weight room, whatnot, the pro level, to really achieve like his full potential. I think, if you can get a guy like that, and if you think he can catch maybe like, if he can have at minimum the Sky Moore season in his rookie year, you'll feel pretty good about it, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the guys that when we were at the East West Shrine Bowl, there's been some buzz for Demario Douglas, the Liberty wide receiver. He could sneak into day 2. Keandre Coburn was a guy that I thought about that who's probably going to go in day 2. Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end out of Michigan, is a guy that I think
blocker.
Good, and I think he would be really good in this room if you don't take a tight end early. He's probably a guy that I'm looking at and saying, okay, maybe they can get a guy here with Schoonmaker out of Michigan. So there's a lot of guys at that Shrine Bowl in that area. That's why I like going to the Shrine Bowl. Is you get to talk to these players that are going to be available in these later rounds, and you know more of these names when it comes to the later rounds. So
interesting one from the Shrine Bowl. I think Derek Parrish, he was out there.
Yes, he was.
Edge rusher fullback combo, I love it. I love it. Like, you have the mentality to be able to, play edge and get after guys, and then, full back and also get after guys. Yeah, the ball. I love it.
No, he's
a lot of fun to see him in KC.
It would be. I think Ken Swanson described him as a football player. He just plays football. That's what he does. So lots of good stuff from the East West Shrine Bowl. You can check out all of our content there on our YouTube page, obviously. But here's a good question from Zach, other Loomis Cowboys co-GM. He wants us to describe what we think the ideal game day fit would be for each member of the lab, but he already made the pictures. Charles, I don't know if you've seen these in the Discord.
I did see them.
They're actually incredible, and I don't know if we really need to expand on what they are, because I think he kind of hit it out of the park.
Yeah, no, they're perfect. I mean, so he took pictures from the Chiefs, from players showing up for games, practice, whatever. And oh man, they're good. They're real good.
So I believe this is Travis Kelce, the one that Craig is on.
Yeah.
In the fur coat, got a bunch of different designs on it, some striped pants, white t-shirt. I could definitely see Craig rocking this fit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I think I've seen Craig wear that before. This one, I believe, is a Harrison Butker one, which is the one that Kent Swanson is photoshopped on. Just a nice, clean suit.
Yeah. Just with the bag, the
leather bag.
Very, 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 very Kent. I feel like he could rock that.
Yes, I agree, and I even think too the loafers with no socks is a very Kent move.
I don't know him that well to know that, but
I think that's a very good one. And the last one, which is probably is the best one. It is Matty, and he is Anthony Sherman in the overalls with the no shirt on, the cutoff overalls, the jort overalls, with a duffel bag and just a plastic sack. That's so perfect.
Yeah, I mean, out on the farm, you gotta. That's perfect for Matty. I love it.
He's also wearing work boots too. So it's just all very perfect. I mean, it's the best. If you're not a member of the KCSN Discord, this is a reason to go in and subscribe to the KCSN Substack so you get access to this KCSN Discord. Charles, it is a good time. There's a lot of people that, let's see how many we have right now. I'll pull it up, and I know we were getting very close to the 500 mark with the server. I think we've made it in the past couple of days. So big community there. It's like a fun Twitter is how I've described it. Yes. It's a bunch of guys, a bunch of people, I should say. There's girls in there. We got girls in there. There's plenty. But that we just hang out with and talk Chiefs. So let's end with a fun question.
Okay.
This one is from Jerry Jones co-GM Brandon W. He says, "What is your favorite childhood movie?"
Oh man, favorite childhood movie. Interesting.
I'll start. I'll give you some time to think about it. Yeah. I know that when I was a kid, I watched The Sandlot a lot. I watched The Sandlot, had it on VHS. We would I just play it all the time. That's basically what I just throw in. I can remember throwing it in the VHS and just watching it until it got done, rewind it, just watch it again, just have it on TV. I watched a lot of The Sandlot. Iron Giant was another one that I watched a lot of. But yeah, that's the one the first one. Maybe I'll think of some more. But those were the first two that I can remember watching just a lot of.
See, I'm thinking like animated. I was thinking like Fern Gully and like a bunch of like animated. Trying to like Land Before Time.
Land Before Time, yeah.
That's a good one. That's some sad moments in those movies for like
very
child, like kids movies. It's a little like when I think back on it now, I'm like, my goodness,
right?
We teach our children some really like grim things with these films, but yeah,
I don't think Sandlot is the one that I can really remember.
Yeah, classic.
It's
the sports element of it,
it's just about being a kid,
Yeah,
that's really what it's all about. It's just being a kid.
The scenes at the pool are just classic.
Great film. All right, Charles, I appreciate you hopping on, joining me for a 21 Questions episode presented by our good friends at Macadoodles. Any final thoughts before we go?
Man, I'm so excited for the draft. I'm so excited that the KCSN draft guide is out and that we're able to, share this time of the year with all our fans. And soon, we got everything going on in Kansas City for the draft. It's going to be exciting.
Lots going on for the draft. Not only with the draft being in Kansas City, we got a lot of stuff going on. So make sure you check out our social channels moving forward to what we are doing at KC Sports Network. We will keep you up to date with what the plans are for KCSN on draft day. If you're going to be in Kansas City, we've got a lot of stuff planned that week. We're a few weeks out now, but we're getting all that stuff cemented. So you guys coming to Kansas City, or you guys already in Kansas City, can come hang out with us. Just come hang out, watch the picks come in, watch us just vibe out. Just guys being dudes is what it's going to be. Just some guys watching football. So Charles, once again, appreciate you joining me. That's going to do it for this week's episode of 21 Questions. We will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts, bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.